That makes me think of, so I'm describing and really as sort of almost an easy one in a way, because I knew what to do and how to respond, and it went really well. We have parents that have children, and this is all through, this is my next door neighbors, this is my house sometimes, this is Canada, this is not any particular place at any particular time. But another way that we have is we have kids that and their behaviors don't look like they're doing well at all. They're taking meltdowns, they're tantrums, we're having, issues, you're getting calls from the school or fights and these sorts of things. And we need to listen as well and recognize that behavior is communication, and our little people, sometimes they don't realize they're overstressed. My daughter may have known to go put her feet in the bathtub or what have you, but they're and you have the teenagers that are telling you, I don't care. They don't realize that their internal systems are really overstressed. They're not doing that well, but it's coming out as behavior. And it's easy for us to see. It happens a lot. It happens to all of us, where we see and we focus on the behavior and think that we need to change the behavior. But if we just look a little further past, and it's like, hey, this isn't typical for my child, or my child had the hardest day ever. It's 8:00 at night. I don't know, the news show's been on all night. We were late eating dinner. We haven't been eating well, and my child's not going to go to bed easily. And they're suddenly having a tantrum. Well, do we focus on the tantrum, or do we say, this is communicating something to us as well, and it's saying, I need you, Mom, or I need you, Dad, or I need you, Grandpa, or and we can know what to do for that as well, right?
And to me, it brings up one of the most beautiful lessons to me that I learned in the Self-Reg Foundation courses were the 3 words: why and why now. Yeah. I think to take a breath and to ask those 2 questions are so important. And that's just even, I think children have an experience of our process of even asking that. Absolutely. And I think they can have a sense of starting to feel heard even when we start to ask those questions in our own mind. And I think it's such an important place to start. Children can feel seen, they can feel heard, and the whole level of safety starts to come in.
And we can also notice, as we see in our children, so there's a little guy that's in a school that we're working with. And the school was very worried about some of the really mean things, unkind things he was saying about other groups of kids, okay? And I'll spare you the details. There's a million different variations that this could take on. But of course, the parent, the school was feeling this was, you hear the language that he wasn't showing empathy was what came back, and they were very worried. Parents are very worried, but they're also a bit feeling defensive because they feel that it's suggesting they're not good parents. And we went in and we worked with the team there, and it was really, once you start to see this, once you sort of to have that self-reg, noticing the different stress behavior, and you can see some of the signs, it becomes very, very evident. But I would suggest whenever we have a situation of our child not appearing to show empathy or doing not nice things that, we hear about bullying and these sorts of things that maybe really upset us as parents and we don't know how to respond, or they're saying mean things to us or any of those things, it's easy to worry about your child and morals and all of those sorts of things. But what we find is if we look at it through a self-reg lens, it gives us a really fresh look, a fresh way of looking at it. We see this child as this little spirit trying to do his best in the world, messing it up, no doubt, and doing things we wish were different. But if we look at it a little bit differently, it opens up new answers and what we can do, and you'd be really surprised. So this little guy, the first thing that we did was we found out, well, you say no empathy, and we found an example of where he'd shown empathy. So if you've shown it, it was with a little brother, but it was, if it's there, it's there. So in our work, we don't ask, how do we teach empathy? We ask, what's blocking this natural trait, right? We're blocking it's very natural. We're wired for empathy. We're wired to connect with one another. And so we've really quickly realized this guy was caught in a major stress cycle, right? And he's acting out in the only way he knows how. It's almost happening. He doesn't even realize what's coming out of him, and the things that are coming out. And so what do? We worked with the school team, And, we recognized some of his unique stressors, some of them, and some of it was diet and sleep and these sorts of things. But we dug a little bit deeper and found some underlying ones, in particular in the social domain. Okay, so he really, really struggled to understand what was going on in a social situation. He wasn't able to read those social cues, and that's true for some people, and not just kids. It happens to me when I get overstressed. I lose that sense, and so it's sometimes why I pull away and need some quiet. So it's not just that kid, it's these adults and all of us as well. Anyway, we did a lot of unpacking and figuring out what we could do, and how we could help this little guy lighten his load. There was too much in his backpack. There just was, and that's not going easy on kids. We know resilience develops, by being able to go through and have stressors, and that's how learning happens, going through some hard times and so on. But if it's more than you've got the resources to handle, it will show up in the behavior. So we just lightened the load a little bit, helped him with some of those key relationships, helped the teacher and I know that the school helped the family see him with different eyes. And, it's a work in progress, but so much of what they were working on, just kind of what they were worried about, disappeared. And all of a sudden they had different challenges to work on and ways of supporting him. But that I share that story because I think it's a message for parents. If we're one of those parents that has a child, there is no perfect child. They're all going through trying to figure this out. They all dabble with lying and taking things they shouldn't take, and they've all done that. And it's part of them figuring out their way. It's how we respond, right? And we remember that there's just these little guys just trying their very best. And sometimes if we look at these as signs of they're really overstressed, and what can we do? And I think there's a lot we can do.
And I love that takeaway too, that misbehavior is so often stress behavior. And the first thing we need, our first line of defense, is relating, connecting, making that connection with those people who help us to become safe. Mm-hmm. And getting out of that stressed mind, that reacting mind, and into our thinking, our compassionate, our creative, our connecting mind and body, where all of those wonderful relationships can help. And then we can start the teaching part. But until they're feeling safe, until that little guy's feeling safe, feeling seen, feeling heard, then we have the foundation that we can help. Because I do believe every child instinctively and intuitively has the compassion, has the empathy, has all of those things in their heart. We just need to remove the roadblocks.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up the point about how that we do get to the teaching. Sometimes people hear me say something like I just shared and think I'm suggesting going too soft, or that there's no accountability. It's a different way of approaching it. But I'm not. And I even as many years as a teacher, and I'm a mom, and I'm working with all different folks. Absolutely, the whole goal is to not have those behaviors happen. I definitely don't want those behaviors to continue and so on. But I want to be also smart about how I work on it. And I use the science of brain body, and I help the child, or would help students feel safe first of all. And then we work through what we need to work through. And what's really fascinating, Linda, is oftentimes the child will take that accountability on their own for whatever it is that they need to resolve, once you help them get back to where they need to be, so they can have those resources to deal with whatever it is. If fighting with a friend or problems at school, they begin to, it's like almost like you have more energy in the tank, more juice, more,
yes,
feel supported. Your family loves you no matter what, and that they're there with you, and you work through those things together. So it's really also about being practical. It's not just you and me are both we're those, we're whole child thinkers. We always look at things that way. But this is also about being practical and working towards safer, and happier and healthier homes and families and schools and all of those things.
Right. And I think that's also because I know parents will say that too. Well, I have to, make sure they understand. But just because we come with soft eyes, which I think is always our first step, that was one of my favorite lessons from you, is coming to each of those. And the more stressful the situation, the the larger the tantrum, the larger the meltdown, the more we need to come with soft eyes. But it doesn't mean we don't understand the necessity of the boundaries that must be put into place. So we come with soft eyes, but we also come with the understanding of how we need the structure, we need the boundaries, we need the firm but gentle boundaries, and finding the way to do that. And that's when I say boundaries, I also think it's a perfect time to start thinking about the ways that we can bring that touch to our children as well. Because a very important part of our touch is when we touch our children in conscious and nurturing and loving ways, we're really sending, what's happening in the physiology is we're really sending signals to the brain that are helping to organize the whole body map. Children have a body map in their brain of their whole body that sits in the tactile area. And none of the other senses have that body map. All of the other senses relate back to that body map. But we need to have an integrated, intact sense of our body to have a sense of ourselves, which we then can take into the world. So it all starts with that really intact, integrated sense of ourselves inside. And by coming to our children in that way with soft eyes, but helping them make that structure, make that boundary, literally, physically, and then metaphorically in many, many ways, then we can start with ourselves, that can move out to our children. From our children, we move to our neighborhood, from our neighborhood to our community to the world. And I think we just build in those little steps. And I think if we can hold on to that, particularly in difficult times, and go back to those little basic steps, that it's so important.
I think that's an incredible message to end today on.
Mm-hmm.
And anticipating what I know will be multiple requests after they hear our little chat today. I'm wondering if maybe down the road you might come back and do another chat on body mapping. I think that would be really building on that last little segment that we just started. I think that might be a really interesting one to explore.
I'd be more than happy. I love talking with you, Susan.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Linda, and take care. We're thinking of you, and I'll be doing a little bit extra massage with my daughter tonight.
Oh, wonderful. Enjoy every moment.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.